Welcome to the Temple of Enki. My name is Max. I am the Temple Ipsissimus. I am an oracle and channeler of Enki and the Anunnaki gods. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about energy vampires and how you can start dealing with them and navigating your life when facing them. Before we get into that, make sure you check out the Temple Patreon in the link below, and you will have access to channeled spells from Enki, the Anunnaki, and the spirits that are not known to any human language. These spells directly target your subconscious power channels to experience higher states of consciousness and magical powers, so make sure you check them out. So getting into energy vampires, first off, what are energy vampires? The majority of people are energy vampires, believe it or not. But there are different degrees of being an energy vampire. Most people are not aware of it. Most people are not aware that they're draining. And these people can be easily brushed off. Easily. However, there are also other types of energy vampires. And some of these can be actors, movie stars, entertainment, right? They're taking your attention, your time, okay? You're subscribing to their streams, to their platforms. You're buying their products. And sometimes it's not from free will. Sometimes it's more of a collective energy people get sucked into. So there are more minor vampires and there are some very big vampires. And usually bigger the vampire, the more dangerous and the more fatal it can be. And some of the biggest vampires feed on people's life force, their chi, their prana, and sometimes even their blood. Okay? That's a real thing because your blood holds your chi. Your blood is your life essence. It is the life force of the earth. That is your blood. Okay? So that's where a lot of these ceremonies of blood drinking, blood sacrifice come into play. Because there's prana, there's chi in the blood. And obviously there's a topic of adrenochrome, right? Adrenalized children blood. Children have the purest chi. And a lot of energy vampires will try to get themselves in positions where they can traffic children, where they can harvest children. You know, they'll try to position themselves in institutions, child protective services, where they get closer to children, right? And it's not just the blood. There's also child sexual abuse. You know, a lot of these dark cults that deal with vampiric magic, very specific type of vampiric magic, you know, also get into child trafficking for the purpose of child sexual abuse, because there's an aspect of harvesting the sexual essence, the sexual energy from these children, like a battery. So that is an unfortunate reality. It does have consequences. You know, the spirits do not take kindly to those type of people, including demons. Demons do not like sexual predators, child predators. They do not like them at all. So there are a lot of beings that will fight against energy vampires of that nature. So this whole system on Earth, purgatory, is a very messed up system. You know, life is feeding off of life. You know, we have to eat in order to sustain ourselves. We have to sleep. We need to drink water. We need things outside of ourselves to a degree that is interdependent. It's symbiotic, but it's also somewhat parasitic. But the key to understanding this concept is that there is a balance. Okay? We all have a magnetic force. We all have a force that pulls in energy. Right? When you're making money, that's pulling in energy. When you're attractive, that's pulling in energy. When you're able to command the crowd, that's pulling in energy. that's a vampiric trait. That's not always bad. You're supposed to have a certain level of vampiric energy. But oftentimes what happens is a lot of people get out of control with the vampiric path. They go out of control and they start getting to practices where they just become a bottomless pit. And they get into things like drinking blood and, torturing children, sacrificing children, taking their energy, walking into rooms, trying to harvest people's energy in plain sight. And most people, because they don't know spiritual warfare, they have no idea that they're being harvested. I have, in fact, been through this myself. At the age of 18, I went through a sexual energy harvesting from a witch, and it wrecked me. It almost nearly killed me. And that's what really forced me to get into magic. So it's really important to know these things because it can ruin your life. And most people go crazy, schizophrenic, and die. And I was lucky enough to have a really solid spirit team. And the help that I needed came to me. The knowledge I needed came to me. Because when you have that type of light, they will want it. When they see your light, they will want it. And that is why you have to know how to defend yourself. And the easiest way to defend yourself from vampires of this nature is to complete the circuits of your aura. And what do I mean by that? You have to understand why vampires take energy from other beings. And it's because of bioplasma, prana. It's the electrical fluid gas in your blood, in your body, in your sexual fluids, in your brain, right? Your brain literally functions off of electricity. Your neural circuitry, it's all electricity. Your nervous system, your sensory experience, that's all electromagnetic energy, right? Your heart has its own electrical circuits, its own circuitry, its own neural circuitry. So bioplasma is the foundation for consciousness. Okay? When you're a vampire, you need to take that energy to heighten your own consciousness. You take, and eventually you get depleted again because your energy is self-consuming, it's self-defeating, and it never ends. It's a never-ending bloodlust. It's a never-ending sexual lust. It's never fulfilled. It's never truly fulfilled. It's empty. So the more people go down that route, the more beast-like they become. They become monsters. And it doesn't end well. So we have to understand how we can naturally acquire bioplasma from nature instead of taking it from other beings. So we have to understand the primordial circuits, right? We have the North Star. This is the master star, the grand star. This is the fixed star. This is the stationary star, the all-seeing eye. This is the primordial light, okay? And below the earth, we have the black sun. This is the primordial darkness. The black sun is an ancient name for the earth. The black sun is technically a very vampiric energy. A lot of vampires are in the realm of the black sun because that's where they feed off of the energy the earth takes from us and into the soil. That's why when we die, we're buried in the ground. There's a natural descent of the soul from the heavens into the earth. So the black sun feeds on bioplasma. The black sun feeds on the energy that descends from the heavens. And that's what lightning is. In Kabbalah, we have the path of the lightning sword, right? The lightning flash. That depicts the energy descending from the sky, penetrating the energy centers, charging them, and striking the earth, striking the black sun. And that's your nervous system right there, right? And that then, when it strikes the black sun, the magnetic energy goes all the way up to the heavens. So there's that yin and yang transference that happens. And through that yin and yang transference, your heart starts to pump more bioplasma. Okay? More electromagnetic fluid. Your blood becomes more charged. And this correlates to the sphere of Tifereth, the sphere of the sun, right? That's why the gods were known to be immortal. They had blood of gold. The reason they had blood of gold is because their circuit was complete and their hearts were pumping this electromagnetic golden immortal essence. So their blood became gold. So dealing with energy vampires in that sense is actually not hard. A lot of these vampires take energy, like I said, they take energy and they have a temporary electrical charge. It may last for a bit, maybe a couple months, but in the end they start degenerating rapidly. And they need more and more and more and more and more, and the effects don't last as long the more they do it. So when you start taking an energy from the primordial light and start feeding the black sun below your feet, you tap into that Vajra energy, the Vajra power. You're tapping into this energy and it's completing your circuit. You're becoming one with the sky and the earth. So you're becoming a complete toroidal field. These people don't have connection to the sky. They don't have connection to the celestial realm. They don't have connection to the starlight the way we do. So that's why they envy us. That's why they try to intimidate us. That's why they try to make us fear them. Because by fearing them, we're giving them a position within our consciousness. We're charging them with our consciousness. So there's no need to fear them. There's no need to fear. Fearing them is the worst thing you can do. And all you really need to do is just connect that circuit. Visualize the light above you. Visualize the darkness below you. And just feel the lightning, the electricity entering your crown, going into your pineal gland, activating your brain, right? Increasing the vibration, the electricity in your brain. And then going down your central nervous system, into your heart, into your arms, into your legs, into the earth. So when people approach you, they'll be faced with their own insecurities, because a lot of these vampiric tactics have a lot to do with domination, psychological domination, emotional domination. They'll say stuff like, I can eat you for breakfast, right? They'll try to intimidate you, right? And in the end, that's a form of vampirism. They're trying to take your energy so that you put them on a pedestal. So the best thing you can do is complete the circuit, breathe, and that energy will naturally circle back to them. Because you're one with the planet and the sky, because you're one, when they're attacking you, for whatever reason, when they're judging you, when they're belittling you, making fun of you, cursing you, trying to vampirize you, they're doing that to themselves. And it circles back around. And the more electricity, the more of that Vajra energy flows through you, the faster it backlashes onto them. So it's actually not hard, believe it or not. Dealing with energy vampires is not hard. The hardest part, truly, is getting out of your own head. The hardest part is relinquishing your doubt. And it's relinquishing your fear. Okay? You don't want to fear them. In fact, I'm going to be quite honest, dealing with energy vampires can be quite beneficial for your growth, because a lot of these people are so narcissistic and sometimes very psychically attuned, intuitively, consciously or subconsciously. They can see your weaknesses. They can see where your energy doesn't have that energy flowing to it. They can see where your energy doesn't have that electricity, that bioplasma flowing to it. If your energy was completely whole, you'd be impenetrable. They could feel it. They could feel it. So when you're dealing with energy vampires, it's very wise to understand what they may be teaching you. You see what they're teaching you, see what they're showing you about yourself. Are you being called to set firmer boundaries? Are you being called to step into your authority and stop doubting yourself? Are you being called to put an end to that relationship because they don't really care about how you feel, right? It takes many shapes and forms, and you need to be aware of these things. In fact, some of the most clever vampires will resemble aspects of your old self, of your wounded self, and they will try to drag you down into that old version of yourself so that they can take your energy. And you'll notice they start to change, and you're starting to go back to your old ways, to your old self, to your old identity. So they're very clever, and you may not always see it. But if it doesn't feel good, then tread lightly. That is the beauty of this practice. I actually learned this practice from one of the Shem angels and the Goetic demons. I went through a challenge of integrating them into my being, both pairs of the angels and the demons. And this is one of the things one of the pairs taught me, is that, when I'm facing, psychic warfare, attacks, vampires, is that when I have the circuit completed from the sky to the earth and from the earth to the sky, that nothing can touch you. Because at that point, you also become a reflection for them to grow as well. So just do this exercise, combine it with breath work, and you will experience wonders. Another great way to deal with energy vampires is through fasting. Yes. Because we have a vampiric nature, we also have to awaken this vampiric nature. And the way it awakens and heals is through fasting, is through restraint. Because when you're fasting, when you're practicing restraint, you're now exercising your magnetic energy. You're no longer indulging. You're no longer giving your energy into desire. Now you're pulling your desire back into your body. You're pulling your magnetic energy up, right? When you're indulging, it's always going down. You're always giving energy, like you're giving it away. You can leak it. So practicing restraint, practicing fasting, practicing meditation, stillness, learning to dissociate from your body and feel what your body's feeling, but from a detached place, that will help you integrate this vampiric energy of yours in a way that benefits you. Because when you have an integrated vampiric energy, a magnetic energy, it's really hard to drain you. It really is. At the start of my spiritual journey, I was very on the fence about vampiric energy. I was very much on the love and light side. And I want to avoid any type of dark energy, yin energy, magnetic energy. I wanted to avoid it. And that costed me. I didn't understand the importance of it until I was educated by the spirits. And this vampiric energy tends to have a form. It's usually like, the way I've always seen it is, it's like these gray spirits with horns and like sharp teeth. And I've always known those beings to be vampires. I didn't know that at first, but then I started to astral project into places like Babylon, Egypt, and a lot of these civilizations that had strong vampiric currents. And I would see these spirits, and I was always very on the fence about it. And when I started to see that in myself, I was like, nah, I can't be a part of that. I can't do that. And thanks to the spirits, I learned to integrate this energy in a way that is healthy, in a way that's supposed to be integrated. So Your vampiric energy is there for a reason. Don't judge it. If you have certain desires, if your desires are getting out of control, if they're becoming quote unquote wicked, if you have a hard time controlling your emotions, if your thoughts go to places that are really dark, that are very mischievous, promiscuous, whatever it may be, if you know it's a sin, then you want to practice restraint. You want to practice fasting. Fasting mentally, fasting emotionally, fasting physically, okay? So when you start practicing this, you will learn to master your magnetic energy and you learn to have power over it. So when you learn to control your vampiric energy, you can then protect yourself from other people's vampiric energy. So another way you can protect yourself from energy vampires is by having a very high pranic charge. So I've interviewed ancestors that are vampires, vampiric spirits that were in Egypt. I've interviewed vampiric magicians that were in Egypt, and I would ask them, why would you sacrifice bulls? Why would you sacrifice living beings, whatever it may be? I know bulls were one of them, but I'm sure there's others as well. And they told me it was for the pranic activation. They did it for like a pranic charge. So they would in a way become weightless, almost like a holographic being. And that's where a lot of their magic would be almost instantaneous. Nowadays, that has become a little outdated. That served a purpose in human evolution for humans to understand the value of life. But now we've come to a place where we don't need those practices anymore. So there are other ways to build pranic charge without having to kill or sacrifice another being. And that is through candle meditations. Fire is one of the ways you can charge your energy up. If you sit in a circle with candles, right? Those candles are warming up your aura, your toroidal energy. And the more you use mantras and visualizations in the circle and accelerate your toroidal field, you start to activate the self-sustaining automatic vortex energy. So you become a self-sustaining energy source. It just becomes like a windmill in a sense. It just starts flowing on its own. It becomes 0 point energy. And obviously another way of having increased pranic charge is through breath work, pranayama. Okay? You know, prana, chi, life force. We're tapping into this energy itself, and prana descends. So we're connecting with the sky, we're connecting with these celestial spheres, we're drawing down starlight, electrical energy, so we can enhance our level of consciousness, increase the electrical energy in the body, in the astral body, in the etheric body, in the mental body. And that electricity, in a way, will push away evil spirits. I remember a time where I would get really drained. My energy would get really drained when I went outside, when I went out into the world, when I would go to the gym, go to the grocery store. Just being around other people made me feel drained. And when I started doing pranayama, when I started to connect with cosmic chi, feeding on cosmic chi, I started to go out and feel like my energy could dominate the world. I felt impenetrable. I felt like I was a lightning bolt. No pun intended. But I felt like a lightning bolt. And that's something people need to have. You need to have that authentic, natural connection to chi, to the atmospheric energy, to the bioplasma. You need to have that natural connection. So, pranayama, fire, completing the circuit, practicing things like the middle pillar. These things can drastically improve how you deal with energy vampires. But it's also good to know the things they target, okay? So energy vampires will try to drain energy from your legs a lot because the legs are your animal chakras. The legs have animal powers. So if they can dominate your primal energy, then in a way they're setting themselves higher up in the hierarchy. So you want to have your leg chakras intact. You want to have your leg chakras fortified and healed as much as possible so that you're not leaking energy into false hierarchies. Some other ones they like to target are the root, sacral, and solar plexus. Try to harvest a lot of lower chakra energy because that's how you put them up in the realms. From my experiences, I had a lot of them attack my lower chakras, some leg chakras, root chakra, sacral, solar plexus, and there's ways to take that energy back through soul retrieval, enhancing your electricity. It just bounces back off them to you. And it's very healing. But those are some of the places they target. And so when you're dealing with these type of people, you'll typically notice they will know certain things about you. And they will try to use those things against you. For example, if you had father issues, then they will use those patterns from your relationship with your father to then harvest your energy. They will, if you had a hard time speaking up your boundaries, then they'll come off as very authoritative. They'll come off as very demanding. It's like if you say no, there's going to be a problem. That's how they take your energy. So that's one way. Another way is if you had mother issues, right? If you had mother issues and you always feel like you have to win the love of your mother, you always have to prove yourself to your mother, then guess what? Now, they'll try to take your energy through making you feel like you're not enough, that if you don't do this, you're not worthy of love, right? That one's a little more passive. It's not as direct. It's very manipulative, promiscuous even. So they'll make you feel like if you don't do this, you're not a man, right? If you don't do this, you don't deserve love. If you don't do this, you're not who you say you are, right? In the end, they're targeting your sense of self. They're targeting your soft spots. They're targeting where you have weaknesses. So the more you pull your energy back in, the more you heal, you get to see these parts of yourself and you get to make those changes so that you can start repelling energy vampires automatically. If you have this covered in your life, you're good. But there are some additional things you should also know, like, don't have any celebrity crushes. Don't put celebrities on a pedestal. Don't put anyone on a pedestal, okay? Stop following, Instagram models because you're lusting after them, right? Control your lust. Stop giving into sensory illusions like that because you're just giving them power and you're allowing vampiric energies like that to have more power in the world. So the key here is to not be your own vampire. Don't be a drain on yourself. Like, you're not allowing these people to grow and face their own karma when you're the one accepting the karma, right? You're allowing that type of evil, degeneracy to exist. You're allowing that type of hierarchy, power structure to exist. So karma is not on them. It's on you. It's on you if you allow it. Karmic retribution. They have to tell you what they are doing. So when they tell you what they are doing, pay attention. Even if it's just sarcasm, even if it's just a joke, pay attention. Because they are telling you what they are all about. So when it comes to cursing these beings, I'm a huge supporter of cursing. Cursing, hexing, binding, destroying, demolishing, devouring, vampirizing the vampire. Most people don't know this about certain vampiric spirits like Lilith, Aerith, Lucifer. They have that vampiric side to them, but they don't understand that some of these beings, even some vampiric secret societies, will keep other vampires in check. If there's a vampire that's going out of control, that's committing crimes, they will keep that vampire in check. So, vampirism is a natural part of life. You can't fight it. There's no need to fight it. Just integrate it in a healthy way. And know that it's not evil. The more you demonize it, the more you will suffer. So cursing is acceptable. If you want to curse them, curse them. I know it's a big controversy when it comes to a lot of pagan type magicians, because like what you do comes back to you times 3. Like, no. So cursing is completely acceptable. You should curse any type of energy vampire, archon, drain that comes into your life. Obviously, you don't want to curse people that are doing it unintentionally, but there's ways to deal with that. Binding the vampiric energy in them that's going overboard, keeping it in check, setting boundaries, speaking up alone on its own is a way you can fight that energy. If that doesn't work, then you get into cursing, then you get into binding, then you get into hexing, and that can really help restore that energy flow. In the end, it's all about the flow of life force. Both sides are supposed to learn something there. One side is too selfish, the other side is too pleasing, people pleasing. Right? The vampiric side has to learn to be a little less of a black hole, a bottomless pit, and the other side has to learn to be a little more selfish, a little more self-centered. So like I said, there are different levels to it. In relationships alone, you might be dealing with an unconscious energy vampire. Maybe they're possessed. Maybe their aura is, infested with astral parasites, with spiritual parasites, with vampiric energies. They may be a victim of that. And you might face the consequences for it if you're someone close to them. Or if you're in a relationship, if it's a parent, if it's a mother, if it's a father, if it's a sibling, if it's a partner, you can face these type of things with them, and they may not always respect your boundaries. And when it comes to them, obviously, you don't want to curse them, but you may have to bind those spirits. You may have to do some clearing so that those energies don't come near you anymore. If it's a hardcore one, by all means, do not hold back. If they're intentionally trying to drain you, vampirize you, there is no compassion there, okay? So devour them, destroy them, wreck them, eat them alive, okay? Not literally, but metaphorically. Eat their energy, because they most certainly want to eat yours. And my last 2 tips for dealing with energy vampires is feeding the root fire, the red dantian fire at the base of the spine, and to feed your Agni fire, your solar fire, your heart fire below your heart. Okay? This is more like a flame for your soul. This is how your soul wakes up in your body. So it's important to have that. Okay? Protect your solar energy, protect your root energy, protect your lower chakras, fortify yourself. Okay? That's the most important thing you can do. You can do a red flame meditation. You're really feeling the red fire at your root chakra, the red dantian fire. You're really feeling that red fire. Okay? This is the fire of the goddess. So you can visualize that energy descending from the back of the legs and going up the spine. And this is kind of like a pump. This is a form of generating bioplasma. Okay? So this will activate the entire tree of life and the tree of death, and you will have a full spectrum life force activation from the root, which is really important. Another one, which like I said, the solar energy. That solar power is what connects you to the heavens and the earth. So when you're completing that circuit, having that solar energy intact and balanced is important. That's all I have to say regarding energy vampires and how you can deal with them. They come in various shapes and sizes and varieties, so keep that in mind. If you liked this video and you thought it was helpful, like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments, your feedback, your questions in the comment section below. Make sure to check out the Temple Patreon for those exclusive channeled spells. And till next time.